So our topic for this presentation is print labels and image and QR codes. And I'm going to throw in a little extra goodie, which is going to be a new feature in 21.1 called soft proofs. So we're going to see that topic also being put in here as well. All right, so when we take a look at this topic, this print labels, image, and QR codes, this is going to be information, as you may have guessed, in a quick set. So I'm going to go into configure printer at the top, and we're going to go offline. I'm not ripping or printing, so I will say yes. And we are now in our main quick set tab. So I'm going to start out by creating a new quick set that's going to have the feature active for the print labels and the image and QR codes. We'll take a look at that. And then what we'll do is we'll come back around and take a look at the soft proof idea, which is something new in 21.1. All right, so I'm going to say new quick set, and I'll name this print label. Print label. Just so we have a kind of a little clear understanding of what we're going to be covering in this particular one. I'll go to the advanced button, and all of this information for our print labels is going to be located and referenced in the marks. So marks under finishing marks. And we're going to see in the upper right corner, print label. So again, I'm making a separate quick set just for this demonstration of this topic. But if this is something you want to be applied in all of your quick sets, you would edit your quick set and add and enable this feature. And then you would use this from time and time again. So just keep in mind, I'm keeping it separate just for topical demonstration purposes. I'm going to enable my print label, and then in the setup button, we're going to find the controls for our print label. So typical information that I could have active. I could have my user comment for my mark setup. I can indicate all of my job ticketing data that I want to have in here as well. If I'm entering this in, I want this to be part of my label, perhaps. My general information for my name of my job, my profiles that are applied, the width and the height, page number. In the case of tiling, I can have all my settings active for my tile options to indicate a row number or a column number, my overlap. And then print is printer information specific to the printer, resolution, what printer was used, dot shape, media type, and then lastly, our date and timestamp. So these are the typical things we have in a label. What's new for our print labels and image and QR codes is in this section right here, image. So I could activate include image in label. My choice is either left justified or right justified. And I could browse for the image file I want to use. Now I've got these few sample images. The concept here would be, I am going to design some type of logo, image file, some type of data that I want to be part of this image area in my label. So I'm going to add my label with my time and date stamps and the printer and the file name and all those attributes, but then I'm also going to add an image. So this is something that customers have been asking for a little bit, to say, hey, I'd like to have my logo in place, the bottom where the label is. So we've got this I've got a couple different ONYX files here to reference, little logo files. You would pretty much design this right to the size of what you want this to be, size and resolution. I'm going to go ahead and select that one example, and I'll click OK. Now, as you can see, there's only really room for one selection. We have a choice of one image. Be that as it may, you can still make your one image all encompassing to the content you want that to be. So some people say, well, I want to have my company logo, and then I also want to have a few, half inch by half inch color squares that I'll do a spot measure check or something to this effect, or some data in general. We can have that in there for reference. If there's going to be multiple bits of content, we're going to want to work this up to being whatever that proper size is going to be for the fit. And this might be trial and error until we get this to where we want this to be as far as the size goes. Our image formats, as you can see, what is supported is TIFF, JPEG, and PNG. So those are the formats that are supported in this portion with our image labels. So I'm going to make that selection. Okay. Now, another option we have is a QR code. The QR code is ONYX generated QR code information to include the data fields that I'm turning on. So it's not a QR code that you might think of for the company information or something to that effect, although that could be added in that image file. So we can have a little logo for your websites, company sites, as well as your own QR code. This QR code is an ONYX generated QR code specifically geared to having the information as you see here: job name, order number, company name, and so forth. Okay, one more setting we have in relation to this feature is to rotate that label 180 degrees. The idea and the concepts behind this could be that you want to leave it on the print, but then rotate it 180. It can fold up around the back side of the print, and it can be something that we can easily look at and see the information for what that label contains. So this choice of rotate 180 kind of works in conjunction with our image information and our QR code and all that data that we want to have in position there. Okay, so now I've got that created here. If I was working with cut data and I wanted this print label to be cut, and I have a cut path associated to it, I could check this option on. And now I do have little attributes, which is just identifying that layer name to designate the cut parameters for this label outline. This could be an idea that I want to, cut this label away, make a cut path around there, cut that label information away, and then possibly it's going to be, adhere to the print or travel along with that printed sample for shipping. So just to say, it's something that we can actually have that generated here at that time, and that's been added as well. Okay, so now I've got my print label and QR code in a separate quick set. Let's go ahead and apply this. I'm going to use my typical ONYX quality evaluation PDF. I will use my print label and QR code quick set. And again, bring that file into the RIP. Now for our preview, the information that we see here is going to look similar to what we've seen in the past, right? We're not going to really physically see the marks and so forth. We do get this gray area down here because we do have some marks activated. You might know in the past, if you ever turn on your labels and you select the option for use large text, that's going to be 21-point font. You'll see something like this in that example because the 21-point font and the label settings are going to produce this kind of grayish area representing at the bottom of the screen this information's here. Okay, so sure, I can print this information. Now, just to show you as an example, a visual example of what this looks like, since we're not together and I can't have a print in my hands, I'm going to open up my print image outcome folder and show you what this would look like. So in this example now, you can see my ONYX quality evaluation. At the bottom, we can see the print label. There's the logo I used. There's the QR code. And then all of the other area, this text fields are the text information that I checked on. So while I said include a label, the label is going to be these other areas that you see here. So this information is at that 180 rotation as well. And so this would be perhaps folded and maintained to this print sample, possibly to the customer site, right? And they can have all that information down there as well. Or if we turned on the checkbox to enable the print label to be selected as a cut path, then this would have a cut path around this as our cutaway area automatically for possibly just having it contained and be with the sample. So that's what that is going to appear like. When we do our print label, we're going to have our logo, our QR code, and then of course, any label information that we happen to have checked on. Okay, so as far as all that information goes, all that text data, when we bring our job in, we have on the upper right corner all of this job ticketing data. So again, this could be where we put in our order information. And again, all of this information that we put in here would be items populated in that text field. If we had custom 1 fields, custom 2 fields, print due, due date, special notes. And so for something like this, the data that we see here would all be part of that label. And so that information would be a part of that. So again, looking at that quick set, advanced button, marks, and our print label is enabled, but we go into setup. Here is all of that job ticketing data. So I typed in the order number, the customer company name, customer name, my custom fields. Because I turned these items on here in my job ticket data when I brought the job in, this information would be part of that label. So very simple action, simple work with containing that. Remember, at any time, we can right click across the top here in our columns, and we can activate the settings that we see. And in this case, we can turn on order number, company name, customer name, notes, print due, due date, and then we have our custom fields as well. So we can always activate these items, drag and rearrange their order. We can see all this information that's here as well. So that's our print label and our QR code. And remember, call that back up again for display. Remember that the logo or the image that we browse for is going to be all to what you want that to be. So it could be just one element. It could be made up of several pieces of illustration or art. The QR code is an ONYX generated QR code. ONYX's data is there for job ticket information. And then all the rest of this type is all the other features of a label in general that we have had. So that's our print label example. All right, now let's talk about going through soft proofing. So soft proofing is new in version 21.1, just recently released, and it's a way for us to get a high-res or low-res image file of the data, possibly to send to a client or some other department that's going to do an approval or something to that effect. So I'm going to go back into my quick sets, configure printer. In this example, I'll make a new one, and this is just going to be separate for demonstration purposes. I'll go to the advanced button, and you'll notice in the advanced button underneath print, we have soft proof. So in here, I could tell it to generate the soft proof at rip time. Our directory where the soft proof will be written to defaults in the ONYX Thrive folder, soft proofs folder. And again, we can browse with the 3 dots and change that location. We could have this generate as a high resolution proof. If we have cut information, it could have the cut path information displayed. And an extra feature here, add pages for job information. If I activate that and I go over to the gear for options, these are the options about that setting. General information, job ticketing data, print information, date and time stamp, named colors in the job, finishing attributes, the bleed, the grommets, the marks, and any ink calculations. Lots of really good information packed into this job information. We're going to have additional pages that describe all that as part of this soft proof. We could pick the page size, the orientation, and if we want the logo, we've got that ONYX logo, none, no logo, or a custom logo. And again, I'm going to browse just to my label directory for something simple. I'll grab this one. Again, one image and location, and again, the formats, TIFF, JPEG, and PNG. Those are the supported formats in this particular feature. Okay, so now I've got my soft proof active and configured. And again, I just made a separate quick set for the purposes of demonstration. If this is something you want in all your quick sets, you activate it in all your quick sets. So I'll bring a file in and I'll go through, I'll do this with the backlit. I'll apply the soft proof information quick set. And if you remember, that is going to be generated in a folder called soft proofs in my RIP. So I've got ONYX Thrive 21. It's going to generate that data. It's ripping now. You can see in the background, the information is ripping. And then this information will be created. So there's my soft proof. The name of the file, I just move this over a little bit so you can see. The name of the file, ONYX Backlit Evaluation, Soft Proof PDF. So let's take a look at that. So our soft proof information, again, we've got the name of the file, the overall size. We can see the logo that we set in the lower left corner. Instead of the original ONYX logo, I browsed for a different type of an ONYX logo. But that's very much like when we looked at the print label, you can be browsing for some image to be in that position, in that place. I did turn on additional settings to include for additional pages, my job information, general information, the profiles used, any of the job ticketing data, my printer, time and date stamps, and so forth. So I have all that information here. And again, based on how it's populated, I'm going to see that data being presented there. So very simple, very convenient to have these soft proofs generated. Now that's something that I could deliver to my clients. If for whatever reason the soft proof was deleted out of that folder, if we right click on our file, you'll notice at the very bottom of the screen, generate soft proof. So I can engage or activate that command again. So right here, I can turn that feature to generate another soft proof directory. Possibly at this point, I make changes or I browse to a different location, but I could create that information. So that's our features for the print label, image information, having QR code. Remember, that's an ONYX generated QR code, which is going to entail the job ticketing information. And then we also have in 21.1, we have the soft proof feature. And remember, I've created this as just 2 separate quick sets for demonstration purposes, but really you could be adding all that you need in one quick set.